A Kazakh journalist comes to America, causes chaos at rodeos, tries to kidnap Pamela Anderson, and leaves almost everyone hating him. That's Borat, the mockumentary that hit Hollywood harder than most blockbusters. But making it was a nightmare. From the very start, the project ran into trouble. Things got so messy that even the future director of Joker decided to walk away. And that was just the beginning. The movie triggered lawsuits, death threats, and outrage, not only from the public, but from people who had actually worked on it. Some wanted to bury the film for good. Behind the scenes, producers were forced to make a decision so controversial, they still refuse to talk about it today. So hit that like button, because this is the insane story behind Borat. To get how this bizarre production came to be, you first have to meet the man behind it, British comedian Sacha Baron Cohen. From the start, he was drawn to satire, looking up to legends like Peter Sellers and Monty Python. He wanted to be just as fearless, and he pulled it off by creating outrageous characters who clashed with real people. His breakout was Ali G, a wannabe gangster and hip-hop DJ. That character earned him Da Ali G Show, where he also introduced Bruno, an Austrian fashionista, and Alexei Krikler, a Moldovan journalist baffled by English culture. Over time, Alexei morphed into Borat, a clueless reporter from Kazakhstan, a small country that had once been part of the Soviet Union. Borat instantly connected with audiences. Cohen played him as innocent but blunt, asking absurd and offensive questions to everyday Brits who believed he was the real deal. Sometimes he even insulted his guests to their faces, and they barely reacted. To sell the illusion, the interviews were shot in grainy, low-quality video, imitating the look of TV from a poor, underfunded nation. But controversy followed fast. Guests felt tricked once they realized their interviews had been played for laughs. Some threatened to sue, others demanded the clips be pulled. Jewish groups and civil rights organizations also voiced their anger. And to top it all off, the government of Kazakhstan filed official protests, with diplomats publicly condemning the character at press conferences. For Cohen, the point was never to mock Kazakhstan. The real target was the people willing to believe such a place could exist, a country where gay men wore blue hats, locals drank horse urine, and women were literally kept in cages. Borat, along with Cohen's other characters, started getting him noticed outside Europe. His cameo as Ali G in Madonna's music video sent his profile through the roof and opened doors in Hollywood. Not long after, he starred in Ali G in the House. The film didn't make much noise, but it proved his creations could carry a feature. It also included Borat's first big-screen appearance as a Kazakh diplomat in a Blink and You'll Miss It cameo. That was enough to convince Cohen. Borat deserved his own movie. He teamed up with writer-producer Dan Mazer, his longtime collaborator, and together they sketched out a plan. This wasn't going to be another scripted comedy with actors hitting their marks. They wanted to build a full story around Borat while keeping the raw, unpredictable chaos that had made his TV interviews unforgettable. The result was a mockumentary designed to push satire to the absolute limit, ignoring boundaries, stirring outrage, and dragging Borat into situations that would shock everyone watching. Cohen was ready to go bigger than ever. What he didn't realize was that the problems waiting for him would be just as massive. With a rough draft ready, Cohen and Mazer took Borat to 20th Century Fox. At the time, the studio was making hits with edgy comedies like There's Something About Mary. Cohen pitched his idea, a movie shot like his TV segments, with real people reacting in real time. The executives were intrigued, but not enough to say yes. So Cohen grabbed a camera, filmed a 20-minute mockumentary reel, and showed them exactly how it would play. That was all it took for Fox to give the project the green light. Next came building the team. Cohen brought in Jay Roach, the director behind Austin Powers and Meet the Parents. Roach pushed hard for a clear storyline, even though everyone knew the real gold was in Borat's interviews. Cohen and Mazer sketched it out, then recruited comedy writer Peter Bainum to help lock it down. Together, they built a framework sturdy enough to hold up no matter how much chaos came later. The story was simple. Borat is sent by his government to America to study the greatest country in the world and bring back lessons to modernize Kazakhstan. But once he lands in New York, he sees an episode of Baywatch and falls head over heels for Pamela Anderson. When he hears that a bear has killed his wife, Borat takes it as a sign. He's free to travel to Los Angeles and make Pamela his bride. Along the way, he interviews real people and creates a trail of disasters. Fox was hooked, but there was still one big question. Who was bold enough to direct a movie this outrageous? Jay Roach suggested someone who already had a reputation for politically incorrect comedies, and several box office hits to prove it. That someone was Todd Phillips, the director of Road Trip and Old School. Cohen was all in. Phillips wasn't just good at anti-heroes and outrageous humor. He also had documentary cred with Hated, Gigi Allen, and the Murder Junkies. In other words, he seemed tailor-made for Borat. To Cohen's relief, Phillips jumped on board. He admired Cohen's style and loved how reckless the concept was. To make it feel even more authentic, he brought along cinematographer Anthony Hardwick, his partner on the Doc Frat House. The two made a pact from the start: never tell the interviewees they were shooting a comedy. People would simply assume this was a European crew making a documentary about Borat. Once Phillips signed on, Fox felt more confident about the project. Still, the executives asked to see a script. What Cohen gave them wasn't a script at all, just a short treatment with the story outline, possible scenarios, and a loose narrative thread. No dialogue. Everything would be improvised on the spot, shaped by whatever situations Borat stumbled into and how people reacted. Normally, that kind of pitch would have gotten him thrown out of the room, but Fox trusted Roach and Phillips, and they knew Cohen's style had already worked on TV. The studio gave the film the green light with an $18 million budget. Not huge, but enough to keep the risk low if things went south. They even created a legal fund from day one, money set aside for lawsuits and image rights, because everyone knew there'd be trouble. Cohen and his team were ecstatic. Production was officially underway, with the title so long it was practically a joke in itself. Borat: Cultural Learnings of America for Make-Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan. To the world, though, it was simply Borat. And that's when the chaos really began. Filming kicked off in January 2005, and Cohen wasted no time slipping into Borat. The very first stop was a rodeo in Salem, Virginia. To get the crowd on his side, he launched into a patriotic rant, backing the war in Iraq, praising the fight against terrorism, and cheering for President George W. Bush. The audience roared with approval. Then he went for the punchline, singing what he claimed was Kazakhstan's national anthem to the tune of the American one. The cheers turned into furious boos. Security rushed him out before someone decided to throw a punch. Cohen was thrilled. For him, the chaos was proof the concept worked. But Todd Phillips didn't see it that way. Dead serious, he said it was the first time he realized how dangerous this movie really was. No one could predict how people might react, and that could mean lawsuits or worse. Cohen pushed back. No risk, no movie. Phillips argued they were gambling with their lives. The clash got so heated that the entire crew felt the tension. They kept rolling for a few more days, but the partnership was done. Phillips walked away. Years later, he'd stir up another firestorm with Joker, but that's a story we've already told. Losing him was a crushing blow. His name was a big reason Fox had backed the film in the first place. Now Cohen's dream was hanging by a thread. What he needed was a new director, someone who understood comedy, mockumentaries, and had the guts to ride out the storm. Once again, Jay Roach stepped in to save the project, this time by bringing in Larry Charles. Charles had made his name writing for Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm, and had even directed Masked and Anonymous, a strange hybrid of scripted story and improvisation. That mix was exactly what Cohen was looking for. To him, Charles was the last chance to keep Borat alive. Charles, meanwhile, thought Cohen was a comedy genius, on the same level as Charlie Chaplin or Peter Sellers. He loved how audacious the concept was, but Cohen didn't sugarcoat it. Most of the movie would be shot in real situations, with legal and even physical risks, and almost everything would be improvised with people who had no idea they were in a film. Charles didn't flinch. After all, that was the same process he'd used on Curb Your Enthusiasm, where scripts were little more than loose outlines. Even so, Charles felt Borat needed something more. He pitched the idea of giving him a sidekick to ground the story. Together with the writers, they created Azamat Bagatov, and it didn't take long to find the actor, Ken Davitian, an American of Armenian-Iranian descent. Meanwhile, the crew started to panic, thinking Charles would bring in his own people. But Cohen and Mazur calmed them down. The team was staying. They'd already proven they could handle the madness of shooting in these conditions. With a new, even gutsier director in charge, production picked back up in mid-2005. And if anyone thought the storm had passed, they were dead wrong. When Borat went back into production, the team tightened everything and added new safety measures. The first step was the interviews. Field producers would call or pre-interview potential participants. Sometimes they'd give them a quick general knowledge quiz. Other times they'd just ask if they had ever watched a Ali G show. If someone said yes, they were out. Anyone who made the cut had to be ready to interact with Borat, and since you couldn't ask non-actors for retakes, the crew relied on multiple cameras to capture every reaction in real time. Cohen kept the crew lean, about 10 people traveling in vans. Every location had an escape plan, with routes mapped out to get them out in under 30 seconds. They needed it constantly. Almost every day, they ran into people ready to start a fight. If slipping out of a bar or public space took too long, the team could usually count on Hardwick's size and presence to keep things under control. And when things really escalated, they had a backup plan, a lawyer. He'd worked with hip-hop groups and knew his way around sticky situations. The only catch? During filming, he was on a spiritual retreat in India. That didn't stop Cohen and the crew from calling him regularly. Once stranded in Idaho and facing possible arrest, Mazur phoned his office. An assistant told him to wait an hour. The lawyer was doing yoga. Exactly an hour later, he called back, calm as ever, and walked them through the legal maze. From freedom of assembly to privacy rights to indecency laws, he knew every angle that could save the production. Through those chaotic weeks of filming, the script was more like a roadmap than a set of lines. It sketched out how each scene might unfold if everything went perfectly, and how it should connect to the next. But once they were on location, the funniest and most authentic material usually came from real conversations with strangers, or from Cohen's fearless improvisations. Cohen's dedication to Borat was absolute. He never broke character even when the cameras weren't rolling, something that constantly surprised the crew. His chemistry with Ken Division also grew stronger off set, and that bond gave their scenes an even sharper edge. Aside from Division, Pamela Anderson was the only person the production contacted in advance. Cohen explained the concept and told her the climax would be a staged kidnap wedding at a public event. She would have to act completely shocked, while everyone else in the room believed it was real. Anderson, already a fan of Da Ali G Show, loved the idea and agreed to play along. The scene was staged at a book signing in Orange County, California. Borat walks up to her with a bag of cheese, then suddenly stuffs her into a sack to drag her back to Kazakhstan. Anderson stayed in character the whole time, but the rest of the audience was in the dark. The first attempt flopped. The crowd barely reacted, and the footage was unusable. A few hours later, they tried again with a new audience, and this time it exploded into chaos. People screamed, security chased Cohen through the parking lot, and when they finally tackled him, he slammed into the pavement, splitting his head open. The crew scrambled to explain he was an actor, and this was all part of a film. Only later did Cohen discover that the men who had brought him down weren't regular guards. They were soldiers recently returned from Iraq. After months of unpredictable adventures, Borat finally wrapped. Post-production ran surprisingly smoothly, but that calm was short-lived. The real storm was waiting for them at the premiere. Cohen was determined to turn Borat into a cultural event, so he promoted it with the same chaos that defined the movie. In full character as the Kazakh reporter, he crashed the Cannes Film Festival wearing a neon green mankini, instantly drawing a mob of photographers and the attention of the press. Back in the US, he staged a fake press conference right outside the embassy of Kazakhstan in Washington, D.C., a stunt that made headlines. The campaign paid off. When Borat premiered on November 3, 2006, audiences couldn't get enough of the clueless journalist and his over-the-top antics. The film raked in $26.4 million its opening weekend, against a modest $18 million budget. At the same time, critics praised its audacity, its biting political satire, and its willingness to cross every line. It was a runaway success. But not everyone was laughing. A month before the release, Kazakhstan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs publicly condemned the movie, calling it offensive and defamatory. In Washington, the Kazakh embassy went as far as to buy full-page ads in the New York Times and the Washington Post, hoping to repair the country's image. The backlash didn't stop there. Several countries across Eastern Europe and Asia, including Russia and China, banned the film entirely. Cohen expected backlash overseas, but the controversy exploded in the US almost immediately. On the very day Borat premiered, 2 fraternity students sued Fox, claiming they had been tricked into appearing drunk on camera and making racist comments, without realizing those clips would end up in a film shown worldwide. Just days later, a man who had attended the Virginia rodeo threatened to sue Cohen for damaging his reputation and misrepresenting the event. Soon after, a New York tour guide filed his own suit, alleging deception and defamation for portraying him as ignorant, and those were only the first cases. Other participants came forward insisting they thought they had taken part in a genuine Kazakh documentary. Instead of hurting the movie, the uproar only made it bigger. Borat went on to gross $262 million worldwide. Awards season also took notice. Cohen won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Comedy, and to everyone's surprise, the film landed an Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay. That sparked its own debate. Some critics argued a mockumentary script shouldn't compete with traditional screenplays. But plenty of voices in the industry defended the nomination, and eventually the controversy faded. Behind the scenes, Cohen and Fox settled the lawsuits quietly, out of court. And in one of the strangest twists, even Kazakhstan's government eased its position. President Nursultan Nazarbayev joked about Borat in public and admitted that, in its own way, the movie had put his country on the map. From the moment it hit theaters, Borat made sure it would never be ignored. And as Cohen was about to find out, the madness was far from over. The success of Borat opened doors for Sacha Baron Cohen far beyond comedy. He worked with directors like Tim Burton and Martin Scorsese, acted alongside Hollywood's biggest stars, and voiced characters in animated hits. Critics, audiences, and colleagues all praised his talent. Around that time, filmmakers would often tell him how much they enjoyed seeing him play a real character. Cohen always held back the same answer. "You want me to play a real person? I already do. I play Borat. He's real. Hundreds of people met him, and not one of them thought otherwise." That's why he never abandoned his alter egos. After Borat, he brought Bruno to the big screen, followed by The Dictator. Both were directed by Larry Charles, until the two eventually parted ways. Meanwhile, his longtime collaborators, Jay Roach, Dan Mazer, Peter Bainham, and Anthony Hardwick, went on to find success with their own projects. And yet, even with all his success, fans kept asking for Borat's return. It finally happened with Borat's subsequent movie film. The sequel didn't shake the world the way the original had, but it still earned Oscar nominations for Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Supporting Actress for Maria Bakalova. It also dominated headlines, with secretly filming Rudy Giuliani, former New York mayor, and Donald Trump's personal lawyer, in a scene that turned into a political scandal right in the middle of the presidential campaign. Borat had started as a small TV experiment and leapt onto the big screen with a concept even riskier than before. It proved the dedication of an artist who never hesitated to gamble everything, working in a way completely at odds with Hollywood tradition. The problems, lawsuits, and controversies never stopped. If anything, they only helped solidify Borat as one of the most iconic creations in comedy and pop culture. Do you like scary movies? That line from Scream isn't just iconic, it's the movie laying down its rules. A bloody thrill ride that brought horror back from the dead while